Only one way to find out, Ji-won replied with a grim smile. They waited until deep night when most of the training ground activity had ceased. Moving silently, they approached the location Choi had identified. Instead of avoiding difficult terrain, they used it to their advantage, crossing areas that would be considered impassable by Academy standards. The observation post was disguised as a natural rock formation, but the humans easily identified the artificial structure. Security was minimal. The designers had assumed the location and extreme environment would be protection enough. They never expected anyone to reach this place, Park whispered as they approached an access panel. Using techniques that would have shocked their instructors, the team gained entry to the facility. Inside, they found an unmanned monitoring station, filled with screens showing various teams across the training grounds. But what caught Ji-won's attention was a separate display labeled Human Adaptation Study. It showed detailed physiological data collected from their team, alongside video clips of them handling various challenges. They're not just testing us, she realized. This entire course was designed to study human limits. Lee accessed a computer terminal, her fingers moving quickly across the alien interface. There's more. Look at this classification report. The screen displayed a preliminary assessment. Species human. Classification potential threat to galactic stability. Recommendation restricted military roles only. They think we're dangerous, Choi said with surprise. Because we can survive. Conditions they find lethal, Park added. Ji-won studied the data thoughtfully. We need to change their perspective before this assessment becomes official. They spent an hour gathering information before carefully erasing evidence of their presence and returning to their camp. The next morning, Ji-won requested a direct communication with Commander Uluran, a privilege rarely granted to cadets mid-course. The commander's image appeared on their emergency communicator, his compound eyes showing surprise. Staff Sergeant Kim, he acknowledged. Your team is performing unexpectedly well. Have you encountered difficulties requiring assistance? No difficulties, Commander, Ji-won replied politely. But we have a proposal that might benefit the Academy. A proposal? Uluran's mandibles clicked with curiosity. We believe there's a significant gap in understanding between our species, Ji-won explained. Your course tests survival skills based on galactic standard environmental challenges. That is correct. To build better cooperation between humans and other species, we'd like to invite you and select instructors to visit Earth after the course concludes. A cultural exchange, focusing on environmental adaptation. Uluran was silent for a long moment. You want us to visit your homeworld? Yes, Commander, a brief tour of some typical human environments. Nothing dangerous by our standards. The implied message wasn't subtle. Ji-won knew the commander understood they had discovered the observation post and the classification report. An interesting proposal, Uluran finally said. I will consider. Yet after the communication ended, Officer Talon approached the commander. They know we've been studying them, he said quietly. Yes, Uluran agreed. And they've just turned the tables quite effectively. Will you accept their invitation? Commander Uluran stared at the monitor showing the human team efficiently breaking camp and continuing their journey. Yes, he decided. I believe I must. If we're to understand these humans properly, we need to see the world that created them. The death world, Talon said with a shudder. The world they simply call home, Uluran corrected. 6 weeks after completing the impossible survival course with perfect scores, Staff Sergeant Kim Ji-won stood on a beach in southern Thailand, watching Commander Uluran and his team of alien instructors emerge from their shuttlecraft. The aliens moved cautiously, their environmental suits fully sealed against Earth's atmosphere. Each step seemed hesitant, as if they expected the ground to swallow them whole. Welcome to Earth, Ji-won greeted them warmly. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Commander Uluran's voice came through a translation speaker on his suit. We are curious about your homeworld, Sergeant Kim. Our research team has many questions. That's why we're here, Ji-won replied. She gestured to her team standing nearby. Park, Lee, and Choi had changed from their military uniforms to casual beach clothes. This is one of our planet's popular recreation areas. Recreation? Officer Talon asked, his environmental scanner whirring frantically. But the radiation levels from your sun are perfectly normal for Earth, Lee finished for him. This is considered pleasant weather for humans. Ji-won led the aliens down to the shoreline where dozens of human families were enjoying the day. Children splashed in the water, couples lounged on towels, and vendors sold cold drinks and snacks. Commander Ulurin stopped abruptly, his multiple eyes fixed on a small child building a sand castle. That young one. It has no protection, he said, voice filled with alarm. She, Ji-won corrected gently. And yes, children play outdoors all the time here. The aliens watched in stunned silence as humans swam in the ocean, exposed their skin to sunlight, and drank beverages containing frozen water. These conditions would kill most species without protective equipment, Officer Talon noted, recording everything with his suit's cameras. For us, this is relaxation, Choi explained. Tomorrow we'll show you something a bit more interesting. The next day found them in a mountainous region where Ji-won had arranged for a beginner's hiking excursion. The aliens struggled to comprehend how humans could casually ascend steep trails that rose thousands of meters above sea level. The air pressure and oxygen levels are dropping, one scientist reported anxiously. Yet the humans show no distress. They watched as Park drank directly from a mountain stream after checking it with a simple testing device. You consume naturally occurring water? Commander Ulurin asked, fascinated despite his discomfort. Our bodies can process minor contaminants, Park explained. We've evolved efficient filtration systems. The third day brought them to a desert region, where temperatures soared during the day and plummeted at night. To the aliens' horror, Ji-won suggested a simple overnight camping trip. Without permanent structures? Commander Ulurin asked, his mandibles clicking rapidly in distress. Just tents, Ji-won assured him. Very basic shelters. That evening, as the humans sat comfortably around a small fire while temperatures dropped dramatically, Commander Ulurin finally removed his helmet inside the special environmental shelter they had erected for the alien visitors. I understand now, he said quietly to Ji-won. Your species didn't merely survive a death world. You thrived on it. It's the only world we've ever known, Ji-won replied. What you consider extreme, we consider normal. The Academy's assessment was incorrect, Ulurin admitted. We classified humans as potential threats because you can endure conditions that would kill most species. But we failed to consider your perspective. On their final day, the aliens were invited to observe a military training exercise where human soldiers practiced urban combat techniques in an abandoned city sector. Your basic training is more extreme than our advanced survival course, Officer Talon observed with newfound respect. Commander Ulurin approached Ji-won as their visit concluded. I have submitted my report to Galactic Command, he said formally. Humans will no longer be classified as a potential threat. And, Ji-won prompted, sensing there was more. And I have recommended the creation of a new division within the Galactic Defense Force, a specialized unit for extreme environment operations, led by qualified human instructors. 3 months later, Staff Sergeant Kim Ji-won, now promoted to lieutenant, stood before her first class of mixed-species cadets at the newly established Extreme Environment Response Academy. Welcome to basic training, she announced to the group, which included representatives from 12 different species. Among them were 4 familiar faces. Commander Ulurin and 3 of his former instructors had volunteered for the program. Today, we begin with something simple, Ji-won continued with a smile. A standard Earth wilderness survival exercise. The alien cadets exchanged nervous glances. Don't worry, Lieutenant Kim assured them. We've adjusted the conditions to accommodate your physiologies. Nothing too dangerous. Commander Ulurin, now wearing an adapted human-style uniform, made a sound that might have been a laugh. Lieutenant, he said, I believe I finally understand the most important lesson about humans. What's that, Commander? It's not that you don't recognize danger, he replied. It's that you've learned to make friends with it. Ji-won smiled. That's the first lesson of this academy. Now let's see how you handle a light rain shower. As if on cue, the training grounds weather control system activated, producing a gentle summer rain. The alien cadets looked up in alarm while their human instructors turned their faces to the sky, clearly enjoying the sensation. The true test had just begun. Humans must have remarkable filtration organs, Officer Talon suggested. When the team emerged from the valley, they showed only minor symptoms, occasional coughing and slightly reddened eyes. Not too bad, Ji-won said, checking her team. Anyone feeling worse than hay fever? I've had worse allergies during spring in my hometown, Choi replied, wiping his watering eyes. Commander Uluran turned to his team of specialists. They don't even recognize the danger, he said quietly. Their homeworld must have prepared them for conditions we consider lethal. As day turned to evening, the human team found a stream and efficiently collected water. They tested it with simple equipment before drinking freely. This water would require triple filtration for most species, an instructor noted. Increase the environmental stress, Commander Uluran ordered. Tomorrow we'll see how they handle the truly impossible. In their camp, the humans planned their next day's journey, completely unaware that their casual handling of deadly conditions was causing an uproar among their observers. This course isn't so bad, Park said as they settled in for the night. Don't jinx it, Ji-won replied with a smile. I'm sure they have worse planned for tomorrow. She had no idea how right she was. Commander Uluran's patience had reached its limit. 3 days had passed and the human team continued to advance through challenges that had broken countless alien cadets. The observation room buzzed with excited chatter as scientists and military instructors analyzed every move the humans made. They should have failed by now, Uluran said, his mandibles clicking rapidly. We need more data on their physiological limits. What do you suggest, Commander? Officer Talon asked. Release the neurotoxic gas in Zone 4. Full concentration. A hush fell over the room. The neurotoxic gas was the Academy's most severe test, usually deployed at minimum strength and only as a last resort. Full concentration might be lethal. Sir, a junior officer warned. They will activate their emergency beacons before it reaches dangerous levels, Uluran replied firmly. I want to see fear in their eyes, just once. On the training grounds, Ji-won's team had reached a wide valley, between 2 mountain ranges. The morning sun cast long shadows as they checked their equipment and planned their route. Water supplies are good, Lee reported. Minor cuts and bruises, but everyone's in excellent condition. This valley looks too easy, Park said, studying the path ahead. I don't trust it. Ji-won nodded in agreement. Stay alert. They've been increasing the difficulty each day. They had covered nearly a kilometer when Choi stopped suddenly, his eyes on his handheld scanner. Atmospheric change detected, he announced. Some kind of gas being released from those vents ahead. Yellow mist began filling the valley floor, thick and clingy. It smelled faintly of almonds. In the observation room, all eyes focused on the monitors. The humans should be showing symptoms already: disorientation, respiratory distress, impaired coordination. Instead, Ji-won calmly issued orders. Cover your faces, shallow breaths, double time to higher ground. The team moved with purpose, not panic, climbing to a ridge above the valley floor. Once there, Lee performed quick medical checks. Mild symptoms only, she reported. Increased heart rate, slight dizziness. Our filtering organs are handling it. Filtering organs, Uluran repeated in disbelief. They're processing military-grade neurotoxins with their natural biology. Their planet must have exposed them to similar compounds. Throughout their evolution, a scientist suggested. Their livers and kidneys appear remarkably efficient. Frustrated, Uluran reached for his final option. Initiate seismic event protocol. Warning lights flashed throughout the control room as underground charges prepared to detonate. These were designed to simulate a moderate earthquake, enough to force evacuation but not cause permanent damage to the training grounds. The first tremor caught the humans mid-descent from their ridge. The ground shook violently and rocks tumbled down the hillside. Rather than freezing in fear, the team immediately sought stable positions, bracing against solid outcroppings. "Earthquake!" Park called out unnecessarily. "Move to open ground," Ji-won ordered, "away from the cliff face." As the tremors intensified, a distress signal appeared on Choi's scanner. "Commander," he reported to Ji-won, "there's another team caught in the rock slide on the far side of the valley." Ji-won didn't hesitate. "Direction? Northwest, 2 kilometers. Signal shows multiple cadets trapped." In the control room, Ulurin watched, in shock as the humans changed course, heading toward the danger rather than away from it. "What are they doing?" Talon asked. "The protocol requires all teams to evacuate to safety zones during seismic events." "They're going to help the Calixi team," Ulurin realized. "The gas hasn't cleared yet either." The trapped cadets belonged to a species with delicate exoskeletons and multiple limbs. 3 Calixi were pinned beneath fallen boulders, their distress calls growing weaker as the neurotoxic gas seeped into their breathing chambers. When the human team arrived, they worked with methodical efficiency. Park and Choi used leverage techniques to move rocks that would have required mechanical assistance for most species. Lee administered emergency medical care while Ji-won coordinated their efforts. "This is only moderately challenging," Choi commented, as they freed the last trapped cadet. "Remember that mining accident drill during basic training? Much worse than this." The observation room had fallen silent as they watched the rescue. When the last Calixi was freed, spontaneous applause broke out among the junior officers. "They carried those cadets through neurotoxic gas," Talon said quietly, "without protective equipment." Ulurin stared at the monitor, his scientific curiosity finally overcoming his pride. "They don't recognize danger the way we do," he said. "Their baseline for survival is fundamentally different." As night fell, the human team set up a temporary medical station for the injured Calixi. Other species who had evacuated to safety zones watched from a distance, their perception of the humans visibly changing. "Why did you help us?" the Calixi team leader asked Ji-won. "Your mission parameters don't require assisting other teams." Ji-won looked surprised by the question. "You needed help. We could provide it. But the gas, the earthquake." "We're inconvenient," Ji-won said with a shrug. "Not impossible." In the observation room, Commander Ulurin made a decision. "Adjust their classification in the database," he told his staff. "Remove potential threat designation. Add new category, environmental adaptation specialists." He watched as the humans shared their rations with the injured aliens. "And prepare a new testing protocol," he added. "I want to know what these humans actually consider dangerous." Word spread quickly through the training grounds about the humans who had rescued the Calixi team. By morning, when Ji-won's team prepared to continue their journey, they found themselves surrounded by curious cadets from various species. "Could you show us how to make those filtration masks?" asked a tall, thin cadet with translucent skin. "I would like to learn your rock-moving technique," said another with 4 arms and iridescent scales. Ji-won exchanged looks with her team. This wasn't part of the mission parameters, but the opportunity to build goodwill was too valuable to ignore. "Have time before we need to move out," she decided. "Park, show them basic shelter techniques. Lee, cover first aid and filtration. Choi and I will demonstrate defensive formations." For the next 2 hours, the humans patiently taught survival, skills that were basic to them, but revolutionary to the other species. Park showed a group how to find natural windbreaks and construct simple shelters. Lee demonstrated how to test unknown plants for toxicity. Choi explained how to read terrain for natural dangers. From the observation center, Commander Ulurin watched with growing interest. "They've become instructors," he noted. "The other cadets are learning from them." "This was unexpected," Officer Talon admitted. "Should we stop it?" "No," Ulurin decided. "Record everything. Their teaching methods might be as valuable as their techniques." That evening, as the human team made camp in a rocky cave, Ji-won noticed something unusual about their surroundings. "We're being watched more heavily than before," she said quietly to her team. "I've counted 12 different surveillance devices just in this area." Park nodded. "I found 3 more in the stream when I collected water." "They're studying us specifically," Lee added, "not just monitoring our progress. Choi had been examining his scanner with a frown. I've been tracking signal patterns. There's a hub for all these devices approximately 3 kilometers northeast, outside the normal training zone. Ji-won considered this information. That's not on any of our maps. Secret. Observation post, Park suggested. The Galactic Military Academy orbited a harsh moon far from civilized space. Known for its impossible survival course, the Academy tested the galaxy's finest military recruits. Most species considered graduation from this program to be nearly impossible. Only the strongest survived. Staff Sergeant Kim Ji-won stood at perfect attention as Commander Uluran circled her small team. The commander's 6 eyes blinked in sequence while his gray exoskeleton clicked with each step. So these are the famous humans, Uluran said, mandibles twitching. The first of your kind to attempt our course. Ji-won kept her face neutral. Behind her stood her team, Technician Park Do-hyun with his quiet confidence, Medic Lee Hye-jin checking her equipment with practiced ease, and Navigator Choi Min-ho whose eyes missed nothing. We're ready for any challenge, Commander, Ji-won replied. Commander, Uluran made a sound that might have been a laugh. Your species emerged from a planet that should have killed you before you learned to make fire. Your gravity is crushing, your temperature swings are extreme, your atmosphere is corrosive, and your wildlife is aggressive. Yet somehow you survived, long enough to join the galactic community. The 4 humans exchanged small glances. They had heard this speech before. Your application to the Academy was unusual, Uluran continued. Most species send their genetic elite. You sent ordinary soldiers. We are quite ordinary by human standards, Ji-won confirmed. This seemed to disturb the commander. He turned to his assistant, a tall, blue-skinned being named Officer Talon. Show them the course parameters. A 3-dimensional map appeared showing terrain that shifted from ice fields to volcanic plains, dense forests to barren deserts. Each zone is designed to test different survival skills, Officer Talon explained. Temperature ranges from 50 below to 70 above standard units. Atmospheric pressure varies by 40%. Wildlife is unpredictable. The humans nodded, looking interested rather than concerned. Previous teams have had a 68% casualty rate, Uluran added, watching for fear in their eyes. 3 species have withdrawn from the Academy entirely after attempting this course. Sounds exciting, Technician Park said. Uluran's mandibles clicked rapidly and what the humans had learned was frustration. You will carry standard emergency beacons, the commander continued. Activate them when, not if, the situation becomes too dangerous. No one will think less of your species when you withdraw. Ji-won kept her face carefully neutral. We understand, Commander. Later, in their assigned quarters, the humans spoke freely. They really want us to fail, Medic Lee said, checking her supplies. Did you see how the other cadets were watching us in the dining hall? Like we were already dead. The instructors have placed bets on how quickly we'll activate our emergency beacons, Navigator Choi added. I overheard them. The longest estimate was 12 hours. Ji-won smiled as she checked her equipment. Then we'll just have to disappoint them. Have you looked at these environment readings? Park asked, studying the course data. The instructors think this is lethal? The team gathered around his screen. The data showed conditions that, while challenging, were far from impossible by Earth standards. This is just like winter survival training in northern Canada, Ji-won observed. And these deadly predators are smaller than timber wolves. Their idea of extreme heat is a pleasant summer day in Seoul, Medic Lee added with a laugh. The next morning, they assembled at the drop point. Other species were covered in protective gear. Environmental suits, breathing apparatus, exoskeletons. The humans wore standard military uniforms with basic modifications. No protective gear? Officer Talon asked in surprise. This will be sufficient, Ji-won replied. Commander Uluran approached, studying them with his multiple eyes. Last chance to reconsider your equipment choices. The first zone has temperature variations that require thermal regulation for most species. We'll adapt, Commander. Jiwan said confidently. Ulurin made a gesture to the observation team. Record. Everything. This will be educational. The dropship carried them over terrain that varied from frozen lakes to steaming geothermal vents. When it landed, the side door opened to reveal a harsh landscape. Wind howled across rocky terrain under a purple-tinged sky. 30 days to cross 5 environmental zones, the pilot reminded them. Emergency beacons functioning. Good luck, humans. You'll need it. As the ship departed, the team surveyed their surroundings. The air was thin but breathable. The temperature was cold but manageable. Check your equipment one more time, Jiwan ordered. Standard formation. Park on point. Lee in center with medical supplies, Minho handling navigation, and I'll take rear guard. Just like a training hike, Choi said with a grin. From the observation center, Commander Ulurin watched with fascination as the humans moved with confidence through terrain his species would consider life-threatening. They don't even recognize the danger, he said quietly. How very interesting. The sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the temperature from uncomfortably warm to bitterly cold in less than an hour. Winds picked up, howling across the barren landscape as tiny ice crystals formed in the air. Temperature dropping fast, Navigator Choi reported, checking his sensors. -15 and falling. In the monitoring station, Commander Ulurin watched, with his fellow instructors. Their temperature-controlled environment kept them comfortable as they observed the human team through multiple camera drones. The night cycle begins, Ulurin said to his colleagues. Other teams required emergency, thermal shelters at this stage. Let's see how the humans handle true cold. On the monitor, the humans continued walking. Should we set up camp? Technician Park asked Jiwan as the wind intensified. Jiwan considered their position. Let's find that rock formation Choi spotted earlier. Better wind protection. The team moved efficiently, reaching a cluster of tall rocks that formed a natural windbreak. Without being told, they fell into practiced roles. Park began collecting material for a fire. Lee unpacked their modest shelter. Choi secured the perimeter and Jiwan assessed their resources. Look how they touched the bare ground with unprotected hands, Officer Talon observed with horror. At these temperatures, most species would suffer immediate tissue damage. Fascinating adaptation, another instructor murmured. Within 30 minutes, the humans had a small fire burning and a simple shelter constructed against the rocks. They sat close together, sharing a meal of ration packs. This reminds me of winter. Training in the mountains, Lee said, sipping a hot beverage. Remember how Sergeant Kang made us build shelters in that blizzard? This is much easier, Park replied with a laugh. No snow up to our waists. In the control room, the instructors exchanged confused glances. They're treating this as a mild inconvenience, Ulurin said. Increase the difficulty. Release the nocturnal hunters. Alarms chimed softly in the observation room as cages opened several kilometers away, releasing 6-legged predators into the night. These creatures had evolved on a high-gravity world with exceptional speed and strength. Their hunting patterns had overwhelmed 3 previous cadet teams. The first sign of danger was a subtle change in the wind's sound. Jiwan's head snapped up, hand moving to her weapon. Movement. 3 directions, she said quietly. Her team responded instantly. The fire was dampened, equipment secured, and defensive positions taken with practiced ease. When the first creature leaped into their camp, they were ready. The 6-legged hunter found itself facing 4 prepared humans. Instead of panicking, the team coordinated without words. Park and Choi forced it to move in a specific direction while Jiwan struck precisely at a vulnerable joint. The creature collapsed, stunned, but alive. Interesting anatomy, Lee observed, studying the fallen predator. Similar nervous system to the training diagrams, but more developed muscle structure. 2 more creatures approached from different angles. The humans met each attack with calm efficiency, using the environment to their advantage. One predator was trapped between boulders after being lured into a narrow passage. Another retreated after Jiwan struck it with a burning branch from their fire. They're not killing them, Officer Talon noted with surprise. They're deterring them systematically. They understand predator psychology, Uluran replied, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. They recognize these are territorial warnings, not hunts to the death. By morning, the temperature had stabilized, and the predators had retreated. The human team continued their journey as if nothing unusual had happened. The next challenge came at midday. The trail led through a valley filled with bright purple vegetation that released clouds of spores when disturbed. These spores had caused severe respiratory distress in previous teams. Potential airborne irritants ahead, Lee warned, examining a plant sample. Similar to the data on toxic fungi in the briefing. Without hesitation, the humans pulled fabric over their mouths and noses, creating simple filtration masks. They moved carefully through the field, disturbing as little of the vegetation as possible. From the observation room, Uluran watched in disbelief. Those spores hospitalized an entire Praxian unit, he said. Their respiratory systems shut down within minutes of exposure.